All right, invite more people.
Katello.
All right, I think we have a majority of people who's going to present. I'm gonna try starting recording in a moment. Start broadcast. I don't have to start broadcast at the bottom. Well, oh no, I'm already broadcasting. Does that mean it's being recorded? All right. Well, in that case, welcome to joint Foreman and Katello demo. I think it's the first one for us. And at first we have a bunch of Foreman devs who's going to show the progress we've made during the last sprint. And the first one is Greg. Greg, over to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Dimitri. Just a really quick one. This is a new feature coming in 1.7. It's the background is about not sending host communication directly to Foreman, but rather sending it directly, indirectly via the proxy. And one of the areas in which that happens, or doesn't happen in 1.6 and earlier, is with templates. So when a host requests its provision template or its finish template from Foreman, it goes direct to Foreman for it. So hopefully you can see my terminal. I'll stick to terminal for this one. There's not much to see in the UI. The only thing you'll see in the UI is there's a new feature on the proxy. So if I curl the features off my proxy, you can see we have this templates feature. This model of proxy features we have. And the only thing that's really important, apart from what's named, is this template URL. So what this is going to do is it's going to get substituted into your templates in place of the Foreman URL. So where you would normally see HTTPS Foreman /unattended /provision, it replaces it with this proxy URL. So you can set this to anything you want. You can use a name, an IP, specify the port, don't specify the port, protocol, whatever you want. Careful with the protocol. Most installers don't support HTTPS. I know recent versions of Anaconda do, older ones don't. Debian certainly doesn't. So you will need an HTTP proxy. That's important. The other thing that you will need to set is in the main settings file. So here, there is a URL. And get it set locally, and that's the proxy uses that to know where to go next. So the host talks to the proxy, says give me my template. Proxy then goes to this address, the Foreman address, to get the template, and then it's returned via the proxy. So let's demonstrate. So if I do a curl, if I go up, so this is me, this is what you'd expect to see in your template. So you can see I've got port 3000, I'm talking directly to Foreman. I'm asking for a Pixie Linux template. I'm just using Pixie Linux because it's really small, but obviously you could use Provision or Finish. And I'm specifying a token, which obviously is what we use these days to identify hosts. And that gives me a particular template, and you can see it's got a proxy URL in here. So already, Foreman already knows it's rendered by Foreman. It's not the proxy modifying the template on the pass-through. It's actually the Foreman URL in your template knows to put that address in. On a query proxy, I get the same template. So the host is getting the same result regardless of whether talk to Foreman or via the proxy. Same template gets returned. There is a caveat. It requires, as I've just said, usually requires an HTTP proxy, and as things stand today, if you enable the HTTP listening port in your proxy config, it's enabled for all of the modules in that proxy. So your DNS, your DHCP, they can all be contacted over HTTP at that point. I am currently working on a PR to fix that, to make it per module, but that's not ready yet. We'll see if that gets into 1.7, but at the very least you could run this on a separate proxy if you needed it as a workaround. That's me. Questions or next presenter?
It seems that there are no questions for you, Greg, and I don't see any on the IRC either. So we're moving on to the next presenter, which is going to be, Tomasz, and new UI for network interfaces.
Yes, hello. I've shared my new host page in Chrome. Can you see it, everybody? Can you see my Chrome window, please?
Yeah. Yes, we can.
Ah, great. Thank you. I will show you a new interface for specifying network interfaces on host pages in short. So when creating a new host on the network tab, we used to have a long list of forms for interfaces. This has been replaced with a shortened table showing just the necessary details. You can see that the general settings and primary interface remain the same for now. This is something we're currently working on in a branch, and it's going to be removed soon. When I want to add a new interface, click that green button, and the old add interface form is shown in a model window, as you can see. The functionality remains the same. You can still switch the interface types, and for the purpose of this demo, I will create some fake interface. Ethernet 0, and just to demonstrate the validation errors, I will put the same MAC address for the primary interface and submit the form. So now you can see that there were some validation errors. There is a red message displayed here telling that you should check the table, and the invalid record is bordered with red. I can edit it and change the MAC address. Back when I hit cancel, it doesn't get updated. As you can see, when I hit OK, the value gets propagated. I can also add some more interfaces. And so on. And that's about it. Any questions? Stephen is asking whether it would be possible to add the IP to the table. It certainly would, and I think that we already have that in the branch I've mentioned. Any other question? If not, I'm unsharing and someone else should go.
Thank you, Tomasz. And the next one is Marek, I think.
Yep.
Yes.
Hello, everybody.
And sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So today I'll try to demonstrate a new and small feature that has been added recently. It's about putting the networking information into our ENC output. So now hopefully you can see my browser and host enc2example.com. So here you can see that I have 4 interfaces for this host, 1 bond and 1 alias built on top of that bond, and 2 physical interfaces. If I go to details, you can see that the bond is assigned to the tenant network, VLAN to the VLAN custom subnet, and both physical interfaces are assigned to the Burbridge 0 subnet. So now when I display the ENC output for that host, I see under parameters, I'll enlarge the font a bit so you can see. So under parameters, there are 2 new subnets and interfaces. Both are arrays, and subnet contains all subnet information that are relevant for the host. So here we have the Burbridge 0, tenants network, and third one, VLAN custom. The YAML outputter is trying to be smart, so you can see all these IDs in the YAML, so it doesn't duplicate the names, but it makes it a bit unreadable. But you can see that it reuses the identifier here later in interfaces. And again, in interfaces, it's array of the objects. So here we have the first interface with type and other attributes. One interesting thing is that we also embed the subnet here, so it's more comfortable to use it in Puppet. So now let's see how we can use it in a Puppet. I have the some demonstration here. I have some manifest. It's in config. So I have just one template here, and I store the output in the root network info txt. And to show the template, I have access to 2 variables, anchor subnets and anchor interfaces. And since they are arrays, I can just iterate using each, and I can access all the attributes because every object is basically hash. So now when I go to the ENC, I'll remove the existing info and I'll run Puppet agent. It should create the network info template for me based on the ENC output. So you can see that we have all 3 subnets here with all their attributes, and also we have interfaces, their type. For bonds, we can access the attached devices. Also for VLAN, we see the VLAN ID, and so on. So that's probably it. Any questions?
And I don't see any questions on the RC either. Thank you, Mark. Next one is Lukash with Foreman discovery of provisioning.
Okay, I just shared my screen. You should see my Firefox. So this sprint I was working on 2 days at POC of bringing a new feature called auto provisioning into Discovery plugin. And I have a working, version. It adds a new discovery rules table to the Discovery plugin. Before the discovery was, tableless. Now it has a new table. And the concept is, if you have a discovered host, the only way to provision a host in satellite and Foreman was to click on the provision host and fill in at least the host group. Ideally, if the host group defines everything, you only need to set a host group and click a button. Well, we can do more than that if we have some kind of rule system, which is I'm presenting to you right now. All we need to do is to set up the host group, and then we can reboot the system and start the provisioning process. So this is a very easy concept, which I learned from the Puppet Labs Razor, and you are able to define the named rules, which has a priority, and they are executed from top down. And each rule, has a query, which is a scoped search query. It's without any changes. It's just a plain scope search, and the discovery goes one by one. And if the query matches, and if the rule has enough host limit, because each rule can be limited by a number, integer number, or it can be set to 0, which means unlimited. This way you can create things like 10 servers per rack and that kind of stuff. And if the rule is enabled, then it matches. So the host group, the host is provisioned with the host group. So as you can see, I have this example. I have a web server rule. So here we can really browse the facts. In this case, BIOS is equal something. Then you assign the host group. The important fact that you need to know is that the host group needs to define everything, including root password, including all the provisioning parameters. If you miss one, most likely the root password can be sometimes missed, and then the auto provisioning will fail, and you'll see an error in the logs. By default, the host names are set to mac_address.yourdomain. I want to allow the users to change the host name in the format of our safe mode, so they could do things like facts, IP address, or anything, or random. This is currently not implemented. Host limit, as I've said, 0 is unlimited, any number, and the priority is just priority, enable, disable. Now let's see this in action. By default, we ship a discovery auto provisioning turned off, of course, because this is pretty much complex setup. So you only need to go to the settings, get discovered, and set discovery auto to true. Now this is a discovered host that has been discovered, as you can see, and it was not auto provisioned because the plugin or the feature was turned off. Let me refresh the screen because it always needs to be refreshed. And now what we see is the discovery 2.0, by the way. We have a RC1 release. It's likely to be the final one. And we will see this node to be booted up. We will see the node uploading the facts. And after, let's say, 10 seconds, it will the rule engine should match a rule. I guess one of these rules should match, I hope. And the host should be automatically, as we can see, it has been rebooted now, so it's rebooting now. Let me refresh the screen again to redraw properly, and we will see Anaconda loading up and installing the system. So in 2 days, I was able to write, as you can see, the Anaconda starts now. In the 2 days, I was able to write this up. It's through POC. We just wanted to see if this is possible to implement, and it looks like we will be able to ship this in Foreman in the next stable version. I just need to give it 1 day or 2 to clean up rough edges, add a new menu item, and the only limitation here is that currently even the Factor 2.0 does support non-string values or facts, like memory is now from this version of Factor identified as a number. We currently in the Foreman facts we currently convert everything to So you cannot really do memory. If memory is higher than 80 gigs, then do something. So this is a feature that will be likely fixed very soon, and this will be more powerful. Thanks.
Thank you, Lukasz. I don't think there are any questions for Lukasz, not that I can see. And the next presenter is Ori, sorry, and she's going to show how we discovered
Okay. Well, I'm going to show the discovery plugin for Hammer. This is. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ori.
Okay. So I'm going to show the discovery plugin for Hammer. So this is already Hammer with the plugin. So when I go to the possible commands in the help, then I see discovery here. And I can see that. Okay, so I can see the possible commands for discovery right now are info, list, and provision. It's still missing refresh, facts, and delete. And if I just use them, then with the list, I'll see the list of all the discovered hosts that I have. I'll show you the info for one of them. Okay, the facts don't look that well for now, but they'll have a nicer output later. And the last thing, I won't do it now, but the provision. There are all the options for host. So you can see all the options for provision. It's not in the Foreman repository right now. It's still on OHUD's repo, but it will move hopefully next week. And then refresh facts and delete will also be added. That's it for me, unless there are any questions.
Thank you, Ori. I don't see any questions in the channel. This concludes the Foreman part of the demo, and Eric Helm's gonna continue with introductions of developers for the Katello part of the demo. Eric, over to you.
Thanks, Dimitri. So up first, we have David covering some Docker updates on the content side, followed by a little bit of some Docker updates also are on the Foreman side from Daniel. So first, over to you, David.
Great, cool. Okay, so for this past sprint, two of the things that I worked on were uploading Docker images into Katello, and then also indexing Docker content, Docker images, Docker tags from Pulp, and then allowing people to view that via the API and CLI. So I'm going to demo both of those together, first starting out with uploading a Docker export. So here I have my local Docker instance running. You can see my images and tags and stuff. I'm going to export BusyBox. And now using Hammer, I can import BusyBox into Katello. First, what I need to do though is create a product, and then a repository for that product. Now I'm just gonna, oh wait. Now I'm gonna upload my tar file into the repository using the repository upload content command. And here I probably should show progress or something. There's a issue open to show some progress or at least some information about what's going on. And now I can view the images for my repository. And these are all the images. Some of them didn't show up locally because they don't have tags. But I can inspect one of the images. It'll tell me, if it has any tags and stuff like that. I can also view the Docker tags now for my repo. Here you can see the Docker tags. Also, I can go in and inspect one of the tags if I want to. And that's pretty much it. I can also, there's one other thing too. I can now view the Docker image and I can see that it has a tag. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Were there any questions? If not, I'll turn it over to Daniel.
All right, let me share my screen. All right. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
We can.
No? What about now?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to showcase two new features of the Foreman Docker plugin, which I hope will be useful. One of them is just that we've added support for searching in the Docker Hub. So when you're looking for, when you're creating a new container and the image is not in your Docker host, you'll be able to search for it in the hub. You have to pull it in the Docker host manually, but then you'll be able to manage it with Foreman. So to start off, if I write the name of image that I have in my Docker host, let's say, well, it's able to pull it, and that's as it always was. If I want to, for instance, get a free APA image, I don't have any on my compute resource on my Docker host. So I can click and search. It will contact the Docker Hub. I'll get here a list of the images available that match that name with a link to the Docker Hub itself, to the description. If I click on one of these, then it will retrieve the tag and the available tags, and then I'm able to continue. Because this will be a very slow process because it's going to have to pull the image and it's several hundred megabytes. I'm going to showcase the support for environment variables with a central image that I do have in my computer. All right. Okay, so this is, okay, let's name this. We just want a shell to show that we get the environment variables in the Docker container. We don't get the environment variables in the Docker host. So using things like an environment variable here in the command or the entry point is not going to work. Those have to be environment variables in the Docker host itself. All right. So let's say 1 dig. All right. And the next step, I'm able to assign these variables to the container. So let's say example bar is going to be Foreman Katello. And I should be able to submit this, and it's going to create the container. Right. All right. I'm going to share another window with the shell, so you guys can see that the environment variable was passed on. All right. So now you should see a terminal. Let me know if the font is too small. Right. So I'm going to inspect the container that we've created.
Make it bigger, Daniel.
It's too small?
It's quite small.
All right. Hold on a sec. Okay. Okay, I hope that's a little bit better. All right, so okay, I'm just showing the that the environment variable is here. I was going to run it and echo it, but I guess that's good enough. Okay, next.
All right. Thanks, David and Daniel, for the Docker updates. Next up, we're going to go through some errata updates. First will be myself showing a little bit of the new content view version details UI. So you should see now that when you go to the content view details page, that when looking at a list of versions, each version should show up as a link and be clickable, which will take you into a drill down of the details for that published version. So in this case, showing you the version and subscription, and allowing you to browse through the various content types, starting with first getting a list of the Yum repositories and the products they belong to, and being able to search through those, seeing a list of packages that are in that particular version, seeing if there are any package groups, errata, and Puppet modules. So you can see that this one, version 4, didn't have any package groups, but if I went back and looked at, say, version 3, and come in here and look, I can see that there are package groups in version 3, sort of giving you an idea and a way to see the difference between the two fairly easily and quickly. All right. So that is all I have on content view version details through the UI. Up next, Justin is going to show the API for seeing affected content hosts for an erratum. So come on, over to you.
All right, real quick, let me share my screen. Oh. All right, you should be able to see that. So we added support in the API, which Walden is actually using in a pull request that has open now, to be able to return systems from the API based on what errata is applicable. So for example, here, you may not be able to see it too well, but I've got, here, let me reduce the size just a tad. All right, I've got an errata ID and it is returning two systems, which these two systems are applicable to that errata ID. It is, I believe, a bash errata. And by default, we only show errata that are available in the system's environment and content view. As you can see here, there's a different errata. This erratum restrict available equals true as an option. That's the default. If we change that to false, we now see that these two systems are applicable to the errata, but if they do a yum install, they would not receive the errata, meaning the errata needs to be promoted in the content view in the lifecycle environment to get to the system. And that is all for me. I will hand it over to Walden to discuss some more errata stuff.
All right. Which one of y'all is not muted? All right, cool. I was hoping to show the content host list, but that's not quite fully baked yet for the errata. So I will just show what we have. Here we've got the content host list. We added some color to these icons here. So basically yellow if you have a bug or an enhancement, and red if you have a security that you need. And we also added here the errata to the content host details page to make it more obvious here. But that's it. Unless there's any questions in the next 20 seconds before I get the bells. Cool. All right. Well, I'll stop sharing then and pass it on.
All right. Thanks, Walden and Justin. So next up, we're going to look at some lifecycle environment enhancements. These are somewhat in line with the errata updates. First, we're going to look at showing the counts for the library environment specifically when you go to the environments page now. So navigating to the lifecycle environment page, you'll be presented with a summary of what is in the library and the number of items, say of content views, products, yum repositories that are in it, including errata and a breakdown of the errata by type, as Walden sort of showed in other places. We're consistently trying to show the breakdown of errata instead of just the total count of errata to give users a better idea. The other part of this is being able to start to drill down into an individual environment. And again, as I mentioned, this was started as part of the errata work, so whenever I drill down into the library, I can get some basic details of the library. And I can also click over here to view a breakout of the errata that currently exists in the library. So I can get a table view of the errata, similar as we see in other places, to give me a breakdown of what is present. And then clicking the link will take you over to the errata page so that you can drill down into the details of the errata if a user would like. And just a note, in the future this will also include the other content types and the ability to drill down into other environments. All right. So that is all for environment changes. Next up will be Christine to show activation key cloning and content overrides in Hammer. If you're talking, Christine, we can't hear you. Seems like Christine is having mic troubles, so we'll move on to the next person, and then try and come back to Christine. So next will be Adam. He's going to show us some SAM-specific commands in Hammer.
All right, what's going on? Can you guys see my terminal?
We can. Can you make it a little bigger?
Sure. Is that good?
That is better.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to show you just kind of some of the differences between Hammer CLI Katello and Hammer CLI SAM. SAM's commands are a subset of Katello, so it's just kind of smaller with some features that are not included in the whole Foreman Katello bundle. So what Hammer CLI SAM does is it just trims out some commands. So first I'm going to show you what full command list looks like with all of Katello's commands here. It's a pretty big list, a whole bunch of stuff. You can see it all fly by there. Kind of obnoxious to read, so we can, just count. I think it's 400 and some total. So that's from all of Katello. So now what I'm going to do is go and enable the Hammer CLI SAM module. So I enabled that, and we're going to do a word count again on the Hammer list, or excuse me, on the command list. And you can see there are a lot less commands. So we've removed a whole bunch of stuff, and then if you're really curious, I can, output the other list of commands here to a separate file. And then we can diff those. You can kind of see very quickly what's been trimmed out. So you can see there's no global parameters, no architecture, compute resources. Most of these things are not included in SAM, but this is just the basic functionality of CLI SAM so far is just removing unneeded stuff, and then next will be customizing commands that are SAM specific. And that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
All right. Thanks, Adam. Next up, we're going to have Justin share his performance testing of Elasticsearch versus scope search with respect to Katello. Over to you, Justin.
Performance test. All right, back to me. So as part of this sprint, I investigated some of these scope search and Elasticsearch differences with regard to performance. I basically set up two systems, each with 6 gigabytes of RAM, 2 CPUs, populated 200,000 fake errata, created about 5 repositories, each containing 20,000 of those errata, just sort of randomly. And then wrote a few different queries that we would potentially probably need to use in the Katello application. And what I initially saw was that Postgres using scope search performed pretty poorly, depending on which query you were using. Some were very fast, some were very slow. And of course, the way that I fixed that was simply by adding additional indexes tuned to those specific queries. And with that, I was able to get it down around to similar query times. Elasticsearch sort of is a lot more, I guess, friendly to performance out of the box than Postgres. It knows how to optimize things by itself, but the friendly syntax of scope search is sort of what brings us to want to use it. So as you can see, the times are roughly similar. For our use case, they're pretty sufficient. We may, in the end, if we have 1 million, 2 million systems, find that we need to move or somehow optionally add systems into Elasticsearch in the future or some other technology, because I'm sure when you get to that scale, scope search probably won't be able to perform as well. However, that might be an optional thing, or something that a user could add for performance gains on that scale. So it gives us more simplicity in Katello for 99% of the users. And Lukash, I did notice that you had some questions here, and I'll reply back to the mailing list on that. And that is all for me. Handing it over to Eric.
All right, thanks, Justin. Next up, I was going to mention some changes that we have made in the Katello code base in an attempt to share some of the UI-related work that we've been doing over the past year more easily with the community. So what we did was we took the basic things that we were doing with our Angular-based UI and split them out into their own Ruby gem and built it into the Foreman plugins repo, decoupling it from any of the Katello-specific elements, and then updating Katello to use this work in the same way that we would expect anyone else to use it in a plugin. And I did this by also using a plugin that Tom McKay has had for a while to ensure that anything I did actually worked with Katello completely disabled. And so the goal of it was to break everything out and make it as easy as possible for plugin writers to use, and for plugin writers to be able to simply focus on writing the UI bits and not necessarily have to worry about how do you hook everything in and up within Rails for loading your assets, for loading pages in a single page application style. And also to provide similar JavaScript testing, similar linting across all usage of it, as well as some other common tasks that we've started to add, such as a simple live reloading dev server. So I just want to mention that and review a few of the things that we've tried to do to give people an idea of where and how you might start or think about using it. So similar to the Foreman registering a plugin method, I tried to follow suit with a way that you can just declare the pieces that you need, such as the name, what your main JavaScript, what your main style sheet is, and any pages, so that, again, the assets are automatically handled, as well as adding routes to the single-page application routing structure, so that you don't have to look at and copy how to invent that. And then we've also tried to add a bunch of documentation on how you can develop a plugin, how you would add, say, a basic entity, and as I mentioned, adding both grunt tasks, which is a common Node.js-based tasking system for running tests, to also wrap those in Rake for the Rails developer that prefers to use Rake or is more familiar with Rake, such that if you, for example, use this and you run Rake bash and setup, it will set up the entire environment that you need for development, including ensuring Node.js is installed, npm is installed, and that all of the development tooling that we've built gets put in the right places, so that then you can run Rake, bash, and CI, and it will lint and run any JavaScript tests that you have declared without you yourself having to worry about configuring and figuring all of that part out. That is all I have with respect to giving you just some basics on what we pulled out and what we're trying to do with respect to centralizing some of the common items and things that we have been making over the past year, so that developers can focus simply on building the feature-specific or application-specific pieces and not necessarily the underlying infrastructure. All right. With that, I will now turn it over to Tom, who's going to review some sam.next changes, and I hope that he will also include a little brief outline for those who don't know on what sam.next is. Over to you, Tom.
All right. So, can you guys see my screen? I'm sharing it, I hope. There you go. So SAM 6.1, next generation. I'm Thomas McKay. Find me on IRC on Katello. SAM is the Red Hat downstream product subscription asset manager. It's a toned down version of Katello that simply manages subscriptions and basic content. SAM release number 1 has been out for a couple of years now, and we're making the leap to piggyback on top of Satellite 6, which of course is Foreman with Katello. So I'm going to go over a couple things: the migration from SAM 1.4, which is the latest release of SAM, to SAM 6.1. I'm calling it SAM 6.1, SAM.next, whatever you want to call it. There's enough changes since SAM.1 came out. Katello, which was based on Katello has been merged into Foreman, so there's enough change under the hood and database and other aspects that an in-place database migration is not going to be supported. Instead, we're going to follow a concept that we used with the downstream product Satellite to convert Satellite 5 to Satellite 6, and that is you export from one tool to an intermediate format, in this case CSV, comma separated values, and then we import that into the next stage, into Satellite 6. We're basing this on a Hammer module that I've originally wrote for a testing tool for myself. Hammer CLI CSV. It's up on the Katello GitHub project. So here's an example where we're running a Hammer CSV command, CSV export. I'm just specifying a directory, and this will go through all the resource types that are in SAM, spit them out into individual CSV files, and then we can turn around and import into this, in this case, the Satellite 6 server. And under the hood, some of the work I've done in the past sprint has been to more fully enable and make user-friendly the both the export and import. It'll do things in it'll import things in proper order. For example, you can't create an activation key until you have the organization created, so the import command orders things correctly. I also added a call at the start of the tool, of the run, to hit the API status URL, so I can tell automatically which version of tool and what type of tool I'm connecting to, whether it's SAM 1.4 or if it's Satellite 6.0 or if it's upstream Katello, version 2, version 3. So let me give you just a quick peek at the output format. So again, this is just CSV. I've just imported the files I created with those commands up here. Some of the things perhaps don't make sense in a pure downstream tool, but again, I wrote this tool as a way to populate or migrate data from a running Foreman Katello to another server, backup or create. I could create 1,000 hosts, for example. So we have host collections. Activation keys are a little more interesting. So these are all the columns necessary to make, not only create the basic activation key, but also to make all the associations necessary. So you can see here that this activation key has some subscriptions attached to it. Quantity is automatic. This is the product SKU number, and this is the name of the subscription. And so you can see this one has two sockets, cloud forms, quantity 1, SKU, product name. So as an example, you can see the count. So I ran the tool, I ran Hammer CSV activation keys, and if I had tried to import this file, this line would make 100 keys, 100 activation keys, replacing 0 to 99, this value here. So it's just a convenient way to import and create test data. That's why you see all these names like this. That was 5 minutes. All right. Well, I won't get onto the UI. We'll show that next time.
All right. Thanks, Tom. Up next, we have Martin going to show Hammer option forcing.
Hey, now you should see my terminal. Okay, can you see my terminal, please?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. So I'll increase the font a bit. Yeah, I have just a short info about a new feature in Hammer. As you probably know, Hammer is using JSON description of the API for creating options for its commands, and it's keeping copy of the JSON description in the internal cache. This can be sometimes difficult for debugging or development of Hammer commands, because the cache is sometimes outdated, especially when the server runs in a development environment. So I've added the option -r for forcing the cache reload with every Hammer invocation. I'll demo it. So if you run a simple command in the output, you can see information about how it was initialized, and there are also displayed manipulation with the cache. So if I add -r option, we'll see in the output that the cache was cleared, and then it was reloaded. This can be also done from the configuration. And it's done with the option reload cache. As you can see, the -r is missing. but the cache was preloaded. Yeah, maybe one small note: the -R option is a global option, so it should go before the commands and their options. And that's about it. Are there any questions?
All right, thanks, Martin. So we're going to try Christine one more time, see if she got her mic fixed to talk about some activation key related changes. Over to you, Christine. I thought I heard something, but it was very quiet. Still very quiet. Lots of static and very quiet voice.
Anything better?
Still not good. I think we will.
Okay, now.
Barely, but it's just a lot of static.
Okay.
I think we'll just try your try to show off your items next video.
In the meantime, I can't hear you guys.
All right. So that concludes the first joint Foreman Katello demo. Thanks for coming, and thanks everyone that demoed. I guess we'll see you next time.